Welcome back to week 2 of World History and Literature. If you're online, it's just World History, but it's the same topic. We've been looking at traditional history versus modern history. That was our first week. We've sort of set the date right around 1760. Now I want to pull back a little bit and look at the situation, the setting around the world. How do things happen, and where do they happen, and why? So let's dive into it. All right, traditional history, that was very much part of last week's homework assignments. You have done studies on it. You looked at Ian Mortimer's work and discovered that. We're looking at that dividing line, that transition period, that flip, and where that takes place. The problem is that we need to ask ourselves some questions before we dive into this. One of it is was this shift, this modernization, fast? Was it immediate or was it slow? Was it predetermined or just a series of lucky breaks? People just got ahead and other people didn't. Was it material driven or was it culturally driven? Was it philosophically driven? Technology advancements. Why in certain places do we get advancements, whereas in other parts of the world we don't? We almost get the reverse. We get a stagnation almost. Why England and the Western Europe region? That is by far the most greatest changes taking place in that part of the world. England is the leader of them all, at least for the most part. And this is causing this great divide, the divide between those who are advancing and those who are not, those who are adapting to the changes of modernization, of culture, of philosophy, of technology. They're making things happen. They're the shakers and the movers, whereas the others, they're just not quite doing much of anything. They're holding on to traditional ways of living, traditional values, traditional ways of thinking. And this divide, this great divide, is what we're going to look at today. One of the reasons, one of the sort of the settings of the stage at this time is that there's this consolidation of powers. The Russian Empire prior to this time is pretty scattered. Little tribes, big tribes, different people all over. But as we move into the 1700s, the Russian Empire is going to consolidate a lot of landmass, a lot of resources. The same thing is going to take place in the Qing dynasty, and we're going to look at that, a little bit of how that developed. The Mughal Empire around India, Safavid Empire, Ottoman Empire, these are like the major, huge empires that are consolidating power, putting their might together and putting their brains together, their knowledge together to move ahead for the empire. So that's one thing that's starting to really take place during this time. Trade is another one, and the discovery of the New World. Right around 1500, Western Europe discovers the New World. This is about 1492. But still, European trade is very limited to that Mediterranean region. Let's blow that up a little bit. This is the 1770s, so this is after the settlements in the New World. And this is the one I want to blow up. So you can see all the routes, the trades, the movements that are going on. There's like one hub, and that really is in Europe, Western Europe, Spain, Portugal, France, and England. They are all branching out, and they're going in two different directions. They're moving to the west, and you're finding the New World. South America, Central America, the Caribbean, and then North America. And they are settling there, they're pulling resources, they're building up trade that way. But they've had, for a long time, they've wanted to have trade with the Far East, with Japan and Indonesia and India and things like that. So they are split. They're going in both directions. But it really is Western Europe that is doing this particular move. And that's going to lead to certain necessities, certain situations. Remember we talked about how we have situations that lead to particular problems and risks as well as opportunities, and people have to balance whether they want to take the risk and make certain choices for their country, their people, or do they want to kind of hold off, and so they'll make a more safer, more traditional kind of thing, hold off kind of deal. That is happening right here at this time, and it's going to make new situations. If they decide to do nothing and keep the same traditions, it's going to result in not very many new situations, not very many new advancements, or the need to advance. But if their choices are they want more, they need more, they want to advance more, then that is going to create more change, more decisions, more risk, and they're going to see what happens. So that's a look at the trade and the consolidation of powers. I want to look at Eurasia in particular. This is more the eastern part of Europe and Asia. During the 1400s, we had the Ming Dynasty in what region is called China now. Very predominant, mighty. They had a humongous navy, and their treasure ships would have made the Mayflower and Christopher Columbus's little ships look like, canoes. They were just massive, and they had so many different kinds of trade throughout Africa, Saudi Arabia, India, throughout the Southeast Asian islands, and they were bringing home tons and tons and tons of tribute back to the Ming emperor. And so the Ming Dynasty was a naval force to be reckoned with. However, in the 1500s, there was a shift away from the trade, a shift away from bringing product in, bringing the new into China or into the Ming Dynasty. The traditionalists felt that they were losing their culture. And so they wanted to put up borders. And this was particularly true because they had problems at home. The Mongols were coming in from the northwest, trying to get into China, and were presenting problems there. The Manchurian people were moving in from the northeast, north of Korea, kind of moving in. So you had this sort of movement in to take over the Qing Dynasty. That created a lot of fights and battles and problems internally. So the Ming Dynasty takes on an isolationist sort of mentality. Put up borders around our lands. Don't let people in. Keep people out. We don't want to exchange ideas or anything. We want to preserve what we have. Let's hang on to tradition. However, in the 1600s, the Ming Dynasty falls to the Manchurian people that are coming in from the north of Korea. They're coming in and they create the Qing Dynasty. The Manchurians expand west and northwest, and they push back the Mongols. And the Qing Dynasty reaches its height right around the middle of the 1700s, right about that time when I say the shift happens, this traditional to modern. But keep in mind, the Qing Dynasty is carrying on that isolationist sort of mentality. Nothing from the outside. And this dynasty lasts until the 1900s, believe it or not. So as far as its setting of the stage, where does it fit in the midst of things? It fits more in the stay the way you are, more of the traditional. If there are going to be any improvements, it's going to have to come from inside its own borders. They start putting up what they call factories. You might call these harbors or customs buildings, where the ships from foreign areas come in. They can offload their goods and take goods back on. This is one of the paintings of the factory in Canton. And you can see the different flags that are there. These are the different trade companies that are coming in and doing business. But there's only this one. Qing Dynasty is kind of sort of like isolating everything down to one focal point so that you come in this way and that's the only way you come in. Well, that sort of upsets at least the British East India Company, the Britain's major trade company in that area. They want more, and that's going to become a problem in very short time, and we'll see that in a little bit. Japan is not any different. Japan also has this isolationist sort of mentality. The shogunates are restricting outside trade. This is the era, the time of the shogun, the samurai. There is one factory that Japan has in Nagasaki. That name should sound familiar. Nagasaki, which is shown on the map with the arrow. But other than that, you're not getting in and out. Things are not happening, and you don't have a free flow of trade and goods and merchandise and resources and knowledge. Shared knowledge. So you end up again with this idea of the situation. We've got to go back to that situation. If I'm looking at it from the Qing dynasty standpoint, if I'm looking at it from Japan's standpoint, the Far East standpoint, the Far East is deciding we're going to seal our borders. We are not going to look for opportunities to advance globally. We will focus on our own internal issues. And that's sort of their decision process. That's what they want. Their problem area is if we allow people to come in from foreign places, they're going to influence our people, and we are going to lose our identity. We're going to lose our traditional values. So it makes sense. It makes sense. You don't want to do that. So they close their doors, close their borders, very, very limited access. And now everybody is fighting for that one little itty-bitty piece to get inside these regions, these vast markets. So, East Asia situation, East Asia countries take isolationist position, trade is restricted, global exchange of knowledge is slowed down, and the focus is internal rather than international. Just like I said, that's just a summary. So, what do you do? Well, it sort of depends on from what viewpoint you're looking at. And that's where we're going to go next.